Hey y'all, we're going to do a crash course on the jaw harp today. By the end of this video, you will know everything you need to get started playing the jaw harp. So the first thing we need to learn are the different parts of the jaw harp. So this is an example of a jaw harp. This is a Grover jaw harp. I'm going to try and zoom in here. And so there's a million different names for the jaw harp. So, I mean, the things I'm going to be calling the different parts, you're going to hear differently from different people. So, but in this video, this outer frame where you are going to be holding it, I call it the outer frame. And this is where you put your teeth, is called the inner frame. I'll be calling it the inner frame. And this metal part in the middle is the reed, or also called the tongue. And this place where you're going to be plucking the instrument is known as a striker or a trigger. And that just helps us to have a better discussion so I can describe the different parts of the instrument. So the first thing we need to learn is how to hold the instrument. So this outer frame is where you are going to be holding it, and what you don't want to do is to hold it in any way that collapses that inner frame, because that inner frame, if you do that, it's going to make this kind of sound, which just sounds pretty horrible. So you got to be careful about that. And furthermore, even if you are holding it by the outer frame, you can squeeze it too much, and so that will collapse the inner frame. So one way that many people hold it is by pinching the bottom of the frame and then using their their pointer finger to stabilize the instrument, and so that when you play, it doesn't collapse the inner frame and you can get the sound that you want. For this one, I've cradled it before, and really the way you hold it, it's not as important. The most important thing is to make sure that you're maintaining good sound, that you're not trying to squeeze the top and the bottom of the jaw harp together, and it can be stable. So that's how you hold it in your hand. But the way you hold it against your teeth, this is pretty important. So y'all don't have the privilege of living inside my mouth. So I'm going to use my hand to kind of demonstrate what this looks like. So if these fingers were my bottom and top teeth, then we'll be placing the jaw harp against the top and bottom teeth. It's not going to be like this. We're not biting the jaw harp. Not only can this cause tons of rattling in your teeth, it can damage your teeth. It also is not going to give you the best sound. But you want your top and bottom teeth to be against the jaw harp. So as an example, I'm going to play it against my teeth. I'm going to get real close. This is going to be mighty intimate. So I'm going to part my lips so that you can get a better idea of what this looks like. And it's going to be about there. And notice that my top and bottom teeth, there's a gap in between, because that reed is going to be traveling in between the two teeth, and you don't want your teeth to be closed, because then that will strike your teeth and that won't be fun. You don't want to be playing over here. Because it's tempting actually to play like this, and migrate over to the side, because you can get some more volume. But Bebcorp Harpery, another channel, excellent channel by the way, really made it clear that this can actually catch your lip, and it's happened to me. It happens to everybody who's trying to learn the jaw harp. You get your lip caught in there, and it pinches. It's really unpleasant. You can so it's good this is probably the safest position, is right around the center, with an opening to allow the resonance to escape and be able to create your sound. So that's how to hold the jaw harp. One thing to know is kind of about after you've got it in the right position, the next thing is that your lips are going to be closing around the jaw harp. You want there to be enough of a gap so that the reed can pass through without any problems. But you need to kind of form your lips around it, and that will really cause the resonance. That's what's going to be creating the sound. I'll demonstrate. So without my lips cradling the inner frame of the jaw harp, and then when I close my lips a little bit, so quite a huge difference. It's really pivotal your lip position on the jaw harp. And after that, really, it's also important to understand kind of the level of pressure. So you don't want to be killing the jaw harp or your face with too much pressure. If you're really trying to ram the jaw harp against you, it's gonna cause your jaw to be sore, and it might not be good for you. So It's important to put enough pressure though so that the jaw harp isn't rattling against your teeth. So if you play without enough pressure, you're going to hear that and feel that buzz. It's unpleasant and it could probably also damage your teeth. It's too much stress. But if you put enough pressure, that rattling sound is coming from this harp. It's not really the best. But with enough pressure, you get a nice clean sound that, and you'll get the proper resonance that you're looking for. So that's how to hold the jaw harp. I'm going to be using this because it's much easier to play and sounds a lot better. But the other one is slightly easier to demonstrate with. And so the next part is how to strike the jaw harp. So this again comes down to personal preference. But one thing that I think is super helpful for if you're a beginner is to always strike the jaw harp towards you. I'll give you an example why. So here's a ruler. If you pull the ruler, let's see if you can see that. If you pull the ruler away from you, I don't actually want to be here because if I let this go, it's going to whack me in the face. But if I pull the ruler towards me, when I let go, all that pressure is going to go that way, which is much better. Gives me a lot better peace of mind because, yeah, if you pull the other way, I mean, that's just going to come towards you. And it's the exact same principle with the jaw harp. If you're pulling that trigger away from you, that's just going to come back and whack you. And when I first started playing, I didn't know that, and so I was hitting myself in the teeth all the time, and you don't want to do that. It's much safer to actually play with you're putting the pressure back, so it is traveling in between your teeth, but it's going, the release of the energy is going that way. Much better. So beyond that, you can use just your finger. It seems like this is the way that I default to, is to just play with my finger. But some people say that you can use your whole arm or hand if you have, some arthritis in your fingers. That can be unpleasant. So you might have to adapt your striking pattern to however you need, depending on the health of your hands. And there's also the Siberian method. I don't know if there's really a name for it, but if you bring your elbow up and you loosely use your wrist to go back and forth, and then you use this middle part of your finger to strike the jaw harp. That's another option. So we've talked a lot about holding and striking. Now let's actually get to making sound. So there are two main ways to shape the sound of the jaw harp. The first method is using your tongue. So your tongue, basically, when you put the jaw harp against your teeth, you're using your mouth and your throat and your chest cavity even as a resonant chamber. And so when you alter the shape of that chamber, that's what creates a different sound. So using your tongue, you can make quite a different sound. So I'm going to just pluck the jaw harp simply and use my tongue as a way to shape the sound. And there's no real purpose of getting close because you still can't see inside my mouth. So it's similar to the sensation when you're whistling. So if I go from a low to a high note, your tongue starts at the bottom and then it goes up towards the roof of your mouth to get that higher pitch. It's the same in the jaw harp. If I start with the bottom, so that is one way that you can shape the sound using your tongue. The next way is to use your throat. Now you may be wondering, I don't know how to control my throat. I mean, it kind of just does its thing on its own. And I mean, that's a fair point. But you actually do control your throat all the time if you know how to talk. So a word that you really can help you understand how to control your throat, and specifically something called the glottis, which is right about here, right above the Adam's apple, is the word song. So this is you might want to go in a room where no one else is watching, because you might feel a little silly trying this. But if you talk with a really breathy voice, then you'll notice, okay, there's air exiting as you're talking. But if you say the word song in that extremely weird and awkward breathy voice, song, you notice at the beginning of the word song that, there's breath escaping your throat, but at the end, song, that air is cut off. That is your glottis. So you actually are closing this glottis in the word song. Song. So right there. And that is another way that you can shape the cavity, that the resonant chamber for the jaw harp to make the sound. So if I do that again, this is with the glottis closed. This is with the glottis open. So using that, you can shape the pitch just like you can with your tongue. Really, the harmonics. It's not going to be the bass pitch, but anyway. So with the tongue and the glottis together, you can make a ton of different harmonics and sounds. All right, those are two ways to shape the sound. Next, I'm going to talk about different ways that you can modulate the sound. And there's quite a lot, so we'll see how far we can get. So the first modulation method is via tonguing. So again, if you know how to talk, you know how to do this technique. And this is very common with other wind instruments like trumpet or flute or clarinet. But basically, if you can say the word top, that t sound that you make, that is basically the basics of the tonguing technique. And you're basically cutting off the air, and it makes a cool sound. So I'm just going to use some simple tonguing to give you an idea of what that sounds like. Sounds really cool, actually. And you can change that sound depending on where you hit the roof of your mouth. So ta 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 is a different sound versus ga ga ga, or da da da, or even ka ka ka. Or even if you use some of your tongue to shape the sound t t t. So that's one way to modulate the sound. Your tongue also can do some really interesting shaping. Back to shaping the sound, if you do that really quickly, you can make some interesting sounds like that's rolling your R's, and not everyone can do it, but that's one way that you can change the sound. Or, like I said, you can change the sounds quickly. So I'm just moving my tongue back and forth. You can even use, the tip of your tongue to go up and down like that. So those are some ways, different ways that you can use your tongue to change the sound. So the next really huge way to change the sound and modulate it on the jaw harp is using your breath. So if I'm just going to breathe in and out. I'm going to, bow my head for breathing out and raise it for breathing in. And here we go. This is huge because this is the basis of making some really interesting and cool rhythms. You may find that you have to pluck alongside your breaths because if you don't, the reed will actually just stop. And even that's a cool effect to let the reed die out. And so you can make some more complicated rhythms. Mastering your breath is huge to being able to make some awesome music with the jaw harp. So as part of using your breath, the diaphragm is hugely important, and it really allows you to give some notes, a punch. It's used for accenting notes, really making some notes stand out. So as an example, I'm going to use my diaphragm to make a punching So I'm kind of doing a ha sound. That's the feeling, is that it's a really like a belly laugh where like your voice just pushes forward. You should be able to feel it if you were to put your hand on your stomach, just kind of on the upper portion of your stomach, and make that sound. You can feel this constriction of your muscles there, and you can do the same for inhalation as well. So it's really great for adding some, accents to your rhythms. So that's the diaphragm. Now, one really awesome way to play, I love it, is by muting the jaw harp. And I was like, what instrument am I playing? If you mute the jaw harp, there's a couple ways to do it, and one easy way to do it is to actually play the jaw harp on your lips. So instead of playing on your teeth, you put it on your lips. And you may think, okay, you can't hear anything. Well, yeah, it's a lot quieter, but it really is so fun to play, and you can get some really interesting sounds. And it's kind of a muffled sound. I find myself just like, when I'm practicing the jaw harp, to stop my, normal practice and just like, and you can use some of the exact same techniques. You can shape the sound with your throat or with your tongue, and use your breath to kind of make a different sound, but it just has a completely different feel. And if you're careful, you can transition back and forth between muting and not muting. You have to be careful because, this is a piece of metal that you're, pushing against your teeth. But if you're careful, you can transition back and forth. Another way that you can mute the jaw harp is by using your fingers. And this is completely dependent on the shape of the jaw harp. Some of them, you'll find that a certain hold or grip is not going to work for muting the jaw harp. For this particular one, you can, I found that I can use my ring finger and my thumb and my pointer, and then use my face as a fulcrum to balance, and that allows me to use my middle finger as the muting point. And so depending on where you mute the reed, like basically, okay, I'll show. So if you mute the reed at the center point, it's going to deaden instantly. But if you mute closer to the edge of the outer frame, it doesn't mute as quickly. It kind of like dies down a little bit more gradually. And so depending on where you want to mute it, it gives a different sound. Really excellent way to provide variety to your music. So we just went through a lot, and you may be wondering, what does all these techniques do? Well, I'm going to demonstrate briefly. I'm still a learner myself, so you can definitely go on to YouTube and listen to some masters, but I'm going to incorporate several of the techniques that we just learned about. If I knew I'd be performing, I would have rehearsed something. I just made some stuff up. So you can use all of these techniques to experiment and make an incredible array of sounds and develop your own sound. It's really quite an exciting instrument. When I first started playing it, I just didn't think that there was much to it, but as I've been practicing, there is so much. So hopefully you now feel the confidence that you can begin playing the jaw harp safely and incorporate and make incorporate some of what we've learned today and make your own sound. If you're wanting to know what your next steps should be, make sure and subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be sharing more about the jaw harp and more lessons about several other different instruments. Also, Johnny Cope, he has a Udemy course, a basics course about the jaw harp, and he's going to go into much more depth, and he's going to slow down in many of these sections and many of the things that we've covered. And in his advanced course, he's going to cover even more aspects of the jaw harp that if you really want to deepen your knowledge of the instrument and take it to the next level. It's a great course. I'll put some information about it in the description if you want some to learn from Johnny Cope. Thanks for watching.